Drew Boa, massive pleasure to have you here, man. I'm stoked for today's episode. You're a real friend, and I believe you're doing amazing work in this world for men having these struggles. And I'm just inspired by you, man. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jake. That means a lot, and we've had a lot of fun, and let's have some more.
Yes. Just previous to this recording, Drew and I were like laughing about all sorts of things, and I was like, we should have just started the episode like just from the get-go, you know? Just get going. And so your book, at the time that this episode is published, your book Outgrow Porn has launched. And when that happens, about a month from now, I think you will breathe a sigh of relief. And because it's a massive undertaking, and that can't be stated enough. But in my experiences with this book, man, I can say from a personal perspective, it's truly something special. It's truly something unique. And I believe it's going to help a lot of men heal significantly.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I expect that it will be a strong temptation to self-sabotage when the book comes out. Sometimes it's not pain and failure that drives us to porn. It's actually success and when things are going well. And so I'm really aware of that as we're going into this.
That what you've just said is a really, really big deal. It's something I hear from a lot of men, and I have the same thing. Such as recent point in my life, I moved to a new neighborhood. We got a nice house that's beautiful. I'm very, very grateful to be here. And this is vulnerable for me, but I'm going to share because I think it's going to help people. But still, a part of me says, don't share this. So for me, when I moved here, I actually had this very body, mind, kind of visceral reaction of massive fear and massive shame. And this voice inside that told me, are you kidding me? You think that you can have this? You think you can move to some nice place and you're going to be with all these great people? You think you're worthy of that? Are you kidding me right now? Once these people see who you really are, they're going to reject you for sure. They're going to reject you. And it's only a matter of time. And so another part of me says, hide, isolate, don't put myself out there. Don't get to know people. I'll just do my thing. I'll just kind of skirt under the surface and stay safe. Right. And this is one of the key things I work on with my clients all the time is the gift of painful emotion. It doesn't feel like a gift often, but I think we often don't go far enough into really understanding painful emotion. We kind of skirt along the surface. We're like, I feel anxious, I feel depressed, I feel cravings, I feel anger, whatever it is. We don't actually dive in and go into it. And if we can take time to mindfully go into it with self-love and this openness and curiosity, oh my gosh, I love that you're pumping your fist. I love that.
Yes.
That, because I know this resonates with you, and that's kind of where I'm turning around to here. But this experience for me of what I would call, because we can often refer to this inner critic, we can hate this inner critic. And I easily could turn to that, understandably so. This part of me that's just you're nothing. You can't do this. You're not going to match up to these people. I got to know this part in a much more significantly through this experience. And it sounds so strange, but if we come from the assumption of there are no bad parts, this part of me actually, strangely enough, was trying to make me more resilient. It was trying to make me stronger, and it was trying to, essentially, it's like in the military. So this part I call a challenger. You can also call it a general. It's like when generals beat down on their new soldiers and are like, you're nothing, you can't do this, right? And they're doing it breaking them down to build them up. I'm not saying it's a good way to handle it, but if I am able to utilize that painful emotion and dive deep into it, which I did, and I got present with all the fear and all the shame and the grief of past relationships and neighborhoods I had been in a kid where I didn't feel like I fit in and I didn't connect with people and I didn't feel loved, right? And I cried and right? And for some minutes, like, I can't cry. You gotta cry, man. It's
Yeah.
powerful. It's this powerful experience that can actually be transformative. I got to know that part and I got to say, thank you for trying to bring me to this extremely painful emotion so I could gain a deeper understanding for myself. That's a totally different way of looking at that. Maybe you have something to say on that, but I want to turn that around to this processing sexual fantasies that you talk about and how difficult and painful an experience that is, and complex it is. But maybe you have more to say about this, though, if you'd like.
I feel like I'm going to cry, man.
I love it.
Just the way that you opened up about your processing, moving to a new neighborhood, and ultimately finding what was underneath all of that. And underneath all of that, it sounds like there was a younger part of you that needed to be seen and heard and loved.
It's fear, shame, grief, man. You say the same thing in your book.
Yeah.
Fear, shame, and grief.
Yeah. So underneath the surface of our sexual fantasies and the types of porn we prefer, we often find stories of those three great sexualizers: fear, shame, and grief or loss.
Yeah, you say loss, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So those experiences, if we don't process them, will stay stuck in our bodies and they'll come out one way or another. And oftentimes it comes out sexually. So our fantasies symbolize what we truly need, which is safety for our fear, glory that removes our shame, and connection that gives us what we truly need in the middle of grief and loss. Like, when we have those things, porn and specific fetishes, like the one that I've experienced, lose their power. And it's not like a magic formula. However, it is a very real, game-changing shift that makes the things we're sexually drawn to less magical and more manageable, less overwhelming. And the intensity is decreased. It's not like the temptations all go away. They just don't have the same control that they used to have.
This, Drew, I love this because what you've just said is on point with what I've personally experienced through this. And we were talking before this episode, and you said, we got to record this, right? So I didn't go forwards because I wanted to just save this for this episode. So let me tell you about my experience. Now, I received your emails, and that's where I took this from. But I'm sure you described the same process in the book in much more depth. But essentially, in one of your emails, and I highly recommend to people, like, go to Drew Boa's website, husbandmaterial.com, right? And sign up for his newsletter because there's a 21-day email series. It's extremely powerful. It's extremely helpful. I haven't read all of the emails, but the ones that I did, I was just like, man, these are on point. And one of them takes you through a process to process, at least in a basic sense, your sexual fantasies, and walks you through questions to ask yourself. And in there, you state very explicitly and very clearly, do this with a therapist or a coach or a close friend as a facilitator. I'm going to be 100% vulnerable and honest.
Love it.
I did not do it with anybody but myself and God, I believe.
And if you're far enough along in recovery to be able to do that, wonderful. We don't want this to be a setup for more sexual temptation or more risk of relapse. The whole point of this is to learn and understand ourselves better so that we can be free.
Yeah.
So, I don't condemn what you did because I think you're in a place to be able to do that.
Right. And for everybody, for those who aren't aware, I'm almost gonna sound pompous when I say this, so I don't mean it this way, but just more so calling reality to it. Like, I have been sober for over a decade, and so being able to approach processing a sexual fantasy from that standpoint, like, that's a lot. That's I've got some time under my belt, right? So that was right. There's probably some pride in there, but there's also just kind of a reality for me of like, okay, I felt capable of
Mhm.
diving into it. And so I had this incredible experience. Again, truly something that has been like a launching pad for me to understand sexual arousal much more deeply and understand the parts of me that are involved with it. And like you just said that the intensity of that sexual arousal, that desire, and you call the difference between desire versus arousal in your book, which I
Mhm.
think is awesome. That intensity can actually decrease, and why does it decrease? And I was working on this previous to going through that process, and this just deepened it for me so much. So I have so much to thank you in teaching men how to do this. It's truly inspired. So I integrated parts work into the process, and essentially, I took myself into what my ultimate sexual fantasy would be. And instantly, when I say that, it's like when you suggested this, there's a part of me that's like that moralizer, like the part that's like standards and beliefs and values. And it's like, no way will we ever do that. That is an insane thing to do, Drew. This guy's crazy. Why would I do that? It's that part of me is like, this is going to ruin everything that we've worked for over the past 10 years. Like, that's a crazy thing to do. But I felt called to do it. And I felt inspired by what you described and explained and kind of the benefits that could come through it. So I took the risk. I took the chance. And as I dove into this experience and to be open and vulnerable, for me as a teenager when I was 13 and I started into porn, it was very much about about strippers. Right? That was like what it was all about. And I'm sure you could actually probably take me deeper in to understand this more effectively, and in a deeper sense. But I I walked through that sexual fantasy and what that looked like and all the kind of parts of it. And what I will share is I discovered, well, let me break this down first because there's three parts of me that were involved, and I took time to breathe, and it was very intense. The arousal was intense. The pain and the self-judgment and the fear of the experience and the shame about the experience, and a part of me being like, "Ooh, this is exciting. Like, let's indulge in this and go crazy. Like, let's." And I had to essentially breathe and step back with mindfulness and be this awareness, right? That I believe it is synonymous with this light of God or this truth, this love that's inside of us, to step back and be fully aware of these three parts I think there's more parts than that ultimately, but the three parts I was able to distinguish between was one that is what I would call the reformer part of me. That's again that it's about morals, values. Um, it is about essentially breaking things down into systems and categories, and everything has a place. And so, to this part, sex is dangerous, sex is bad, it threatens to break down my moral code, etc. It could lead to a lack of productivity in my life. And I don't mean sex as a whole, but I mean what it became for me, right? And what I was taught ultimately implicitly in my faith, unfortunately. That's kind of a reality for a lot of men is their faith in religion. It 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 can tend to kind of promote this shame and fear around sexuality, which I don't think that's truth or what's meant in a lot of cases. It's not really that's not how it's meant, but that's often what happens. So I noticed that part and as I think about it as that part and then another part as well that are these two parts that have played big protectors in my life, these managers. don't look at this, don't think about it, it's bad, the judgment surrounding it, this deep fear surrounding that it's going to destroy us, it's going to take us over. And there ultimately, if you will, this gets a little complex, but distrusting the other part of me that I would say is this like adventurer or this enthusiast kind of part of me that's about the excitement and the moment and sensuality and sexuality, right? And like being present with all of that and fully experiencing it. It's excited about all of it. It's like this other guy, this adventurer guy is going to take us over and he's going to just like indulge in this experience. It's going to ruin everything that we've been working for, which is to be a good person and to live a moral life, right? And then as I noticed those parts and I was able to just deeply be aware of and understand their good intentions for me. And for a lot of people, they're like, I hate that, addict part of me or that part that wants to indulge. I now love that part of me as I've been working with it over the last year. That part of me, again, what does it want? I just described it. Adventure, enthusiasm, excitement, living in the moment, being present, having fun. This is a really, really good part of me. One that I kept stuffed down for many, many years. But that's what it wants. And why? One of the reasons why is because I've got this young boy that you're referring to underneath the surface that I refer to as the nurturer part of me, which I kept deeply exiled for a vast majority of my life. Cares about connection. It cares about relationships. It cares about empathy. And it felt in my childhood that it was too much. It was too much. The sensitive feelings were overwhelming for people. People didn't want to hear about it. He felt unaccepted and unseen. And so he feels, because I have sexual feelings, I must be a bad person. Like there must be something inherently flawed and wrong with me. And I'm scared of these feelings because that's what they show. They show that I'm not good. And so I was able to just be with and cry with that part of me. And that's the process, kind of like you just said, self-understanding. Like the more I discover about this, it's not so much more than that in an ultimate sense is understanding. You may be able to talk to this a lot more and say more nuance or other details on it, but I need to understand these parts of me. And what I came out with, the truth I came out with at the end, this has been a bit long-winded, but I hope it's helpful to people. What I came out with at the end was there's a young boy inside of me that I just described, that nurturer part, that deeply wanted acceptance and connection. Deeply wanted to feel seen and loved just for who he is. All his flaws, all his awkwardness, all his weirdness, all the ways he doesn't feel like he's enough, just accepted as he is. And what was interesting, what I never perceived before this, is that this part of me, and until you do parts work, this can seem strange, but when you do it, you experience it. This part of me speaking to me, right, internally, not like literally a voice, but you hear it, you feel it saying, I'm sorry that I feel like it's my fault that we became addicted to porn. That was never my intention. I didn't know that was going to happen. And he's saying that, as best I understand, because the deep insecurities I carried, feeling like I wasn't enough, feeling like I wasn't accepted, all that he carried caused this other adventurer part of me, if you will, to step up and be like, I've got the solution for you. We're going to connect with people through a safe way where we can't be rejected and where there's no risks, and we'll connect that way and we'll get this acceptance that you need and that you want. That's the porn, right?
Is that where strippers came in?
Yes, because I still have more to discover about this, but it's like someone who, I feel embarrassed about some of this and I don't fully understand it yet, but someone who is just going to be there for me and accept me and love me regardless of how I feel. And I've actually talked to one of my clients, and we've worked on his sexual fantasies, and his are very different than mine. Like in his, he's like a big, strong man that's like all the ladies love, and he's super desirable, right? For me, it's like, this sounds so weird, but it's like, I'm just like this boy that's just like, I feel awkward and I feel weird. And this woman is just like, I fully accept you exactly as you are. just like in your awkwardness, like you're good. And she just desires and wants to be with me.
Welcoming you, revealing herself to you.
That's a good point, Drew. Revealing herself to you. I actually hadn't put that together.
Maybe there's an aspect of vulnerability that you longed for.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
I like
Does that resonate with you?
It does. Yeah. I think that's really making me feel here, man. I think it's like I want to connect with somebody else and like be fully seen and fully see them to the deepest degree, and all the pain and all the joy, like all the insecurities, all the awkwardness, all the gifts and the talents and all of it. And just like, I fully accept you and you fully accept me. And like, we connect on that level where we're like, we're one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what God created us for. For that.
Yeah.
So underneath the sexual surface symptoms or whatever the specifics are, we find these deeper desires that we don't have to shut down. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a struggle for a lot of men that are listening to this podcast right now, because I would imagine that part of them that is, right, again, what I'd call kind of that organizer or reformer, that very moral, values driven part that can be can be judgmental, is like, I gotta control this. Like I gotta control, because it destroys my life and it's destroying my life. So can you speak more to the root and core of what you're saying, which I definitely see, but I think it could be hard to see when you're caught in addiction.
All right. So first of all, there is no such thing as porn in general. There is no such thing as normal porn. There are only very particular types of people and activities that we search for or find arousing. So you can't just deal with porn. You got to deal with this type of person: older, younger, man, woman, group, one-on-one, all kinds of different scenarios. Strippers. For me, my sexual fetish was always girls and women with braces.
Yeah. And I appreciate you being so vulnerable about that, man, because that's tough. I think there's a lot of people who would laugh or scoff at that. And I think your level of openness about that gives a lot of men kind of permission to be open themselves.
That's my hope, is that first of all, you would feel permission to face these things, to be able to talk about them, and then to relate to them differently, because most of us have a combination of toxic shame, repressed sexuality, and a military mindset.
It's like toxic shame, repressed sexuality, and a military mindset. I like that.
Yeah. So having a deep sense of judgment and condemnation for the type of porn or for the specific sexual behaviors I'm trying to get free from. And then when those behaviors come up, we repress them. And unwittingly give them more power.
Yeah.
When we repress sexual thoughts and feelings, they intensify, they get stronger. As long as we're fighting against them, they have even more control. So trying to control it is a losing battle.
That's the paradoxical thing that I've come to understand for myself and what I work. This is central to both of our work with men. And I put it in a parts work perspective. There's a manager, firefighter, polarization, right? Yep. They're in conflict inside of you. And for those who don't know firefighters, I've talked about manager, which can be the judgmental, controlling, like you've just said, type of part of you that's trying to control the whole thing and make it stop and turn you away from it. And, I can't think about this. I've got to make it go away. And then the firefighter is the one that is kind of, it can act as, I shouldn't say it can act as this pleasure seeking or comforting, right? Like I want to seek comfort through this, or fantasizing, right? It's just, I'm seeking fantasy in this because it's this escape for me.
Yeah.
Those
Escape,
parts,
avoid, numb.
mhm, those parts act, and maybe you can speak more to this, but they act in equal and opposite reaction to one another. They will show up equally and in opposite reaction to one another.
Right.
Do you, that's what I've seen
Yeah.
in I work with people.
Well, this is how our internal conflict and addiction escalates.
Mhm.
Is when you clamp down on purging yourself from porn and try to never do it again. When you do that, this other part of you feels even less safe and eventually will retaliate.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's that purging, binging cycle that makes it feel like no matter what I do, no matter what I try, I'll never be free.
Yep. And this,
That's
go
why
ahead.
we need a different approach.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that different approach. This is actually, I did an episode with Chandler Rogers, which will be out at this point by the time this launches. And uh, just as I said before, this amazing guy, Chandler Rogers, and what he's doing through with the Relay app is fantastic. Very inspiring, very down to earth. And we were discussing, I actually literally just lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about? We're talking about
The need for a different approach instead of fighting against our sexual feelings,
Mhm.
facing them, learning about them. Because a lot of times the military mindset of waging war against myself just doesn't work.
Mhm.
And I think Relay is a great tool for getting connected. And as I understand it, they're also giving people ways to try like urge surfing or being with our feelings,
Mhm.
which is part of what actually helps.
So let's actually dive into that, Drew. So, um, again, something I work with my clients on frequently, being with the urge. Can you speak more to that and this other approach? Because I think we often see there's two roads. We say it's either to control or to escape, right? Either got to control the urge or I got to just give into it. But
Mhm.
there's another way. What I would say is the straight and narrow path, the middle way. It's referred to in a lot of faiths, and I believe it is sharing that truth of like there's actually another approach. But can you talk about what this approach takes when it comes specifically to processing our sexual fantasies or understanding how to do that?
This is the approach that I fully describe in my book, Outgrow Porn. And it can be summarized as befriending your sexuality instead of battling, befriending.
Mhm. And that has a powerful. It's both psychological and spiritual. I think it hits truth, right?
Yeah.
And it resonates. And it's for those who are Christian, which is a vast majority of my audience. That's what Christ did with people who were caught up in sin or sinners, right? He spent his time with them.
He came closer. He touched them.
Mm-hmm.
He saw them. He listened to them. He loved them. Wow. Now that is healing. That's a deeper level of freedom than fighting will ever give you.
And I would say, I've said this before on the podcast, why would we, if that's how Christ treated people, why would we treat any part of ourselves any different?
Yeah. And Jesus did have a forceful and assertive side to him with people who didn't think they were broken.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And,
I love
yeah,
that you bring that up. It's important.
right. But with everybody who was feeling shame, with everybody who had a history of prostitution or something that society looked down on, wow, he was so tender. He was so gentle and compassionate. And when we take that approach, these polarized parts feel safer to stop fighting, start feeling and healing. And when that happens, like it's not that you've won the battle, it's that you've eliminated the need for the battle.
Feeling and healing. Can you tell people more about that? I often say healing is not a mental process, it's an emotional one. Can you talk more about why that's important?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the logical left brain that wants to watch porn. It's that emotional, imaginative right brain. It's connected to our bodies. It's where trauma is stored. And so if you want to really take a whole brain approach, we can't just be trying to think differently or behave differently. We have to engage like the right brain and the body where our deep feelings and fantasies are actually stored. So our imaginations are good. They can be used for fantasy, and they can be used like for engaging with your inner child as well. And so I see this process of feeling and healing as reclaiming your imagination and blessing your brain and your body instead of trying to think your way out of it.
I was just getting struck. You probably saw my eyebrows raised, Drew, because you just kind of brought together a couple of puzzle pieces for me that I've been considering lately, which is what I see as kind of this, maybe you have more to say on this, but this interconnection between neuroscience and parts work and things. I feel that there's this, what I've seen, and I probably haven't studied enough about it. I'm sure there's things out there on this, but what I've seen working with clients and working within myself is there's kind of a theme typically on which parts polarize with one another. And so it would be like these parts that are like comforting and like peacemaking, or like the adventurer and enthusiastic parts are like this like dreamer fantasizing parts, right? These more like creative kind of, you could describe them as more feminine in some ways, but I don't think that quite strikes it. I've been fascinated by that, the feminine versus masculine polarization and how that breaks down, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. They will polarize with these masculine parts of us, what I would call like the challenger, right? Or like that general part, like you're talking about, this militaristic, can be very militaristic. And like that organizer, like moralistic kind of part, and like an achieving, ambitious part, right? And these parts, and that would be like the left side of the brain, right? Is those masculine. And then the right side would be like those feminine parts, if you will. This is something I am like hypothesizing on, and just, this is stuff I'm working on in my own time, kind of passion project stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think?
I might see it more as like two sides of your unique masculinity or femininity if you're a woman. There's the tough side and there's the tender side.
Okay, totally. So it's
and
all
the managers
masculine.
Tend to be the tough guys, like, hey, let's get things done. Let's live a good life and achieve and succeed. And then the firefighters are like, what about love?
Totally.
And what about feeling good?
Yes.
And what about play? And
yes.
and so
yes,
they both have something good.
Yes.
That we need to reclaim. So a lot of times, I think as men, we view that more tender side as weak or the problem. Whereas in a full holistic masculinity and in the person of Jesus, we see both tenderness and toughness. And oftentimes our sexuality is much more tender. When you take that tough approach, it has value and it's only going to take you so far.
Yeah. This is like this integration. Again, this is something else that I'm continuing to work on and try to understand. But what I've seen for me in my personal journey is my obsession with porn, masturbation, sexual outlets as my way of coping in life. Um, one way of describing it is like this imbalance in my internal system, my personality of suppressing different parts of me and other parts being really extreme to fill those gaps that the other suppressed parts aren't filling, like this very unhealthy relationship with that hyper masculine part of me that's that like challenger, that general. It can be harsh and it can be critical. And in building a relationship with that part, like I was describing at the beginning of like, okay, this part's trying to like, it's trying to motivate me. It's trying to keep me humble. It's trying to help me grow. It's trying to help me be resilient. That has like really been helping me fill in a gap in my mind and in my life. And it's changing my relationship with my wife fundamentally, where I'm stepping up more as a man and like as a leader when I'm needed as a leader, and to take ownership and help out everywhere I can and be resilient and be strong. Cause I just had that part very suppressed my whole life, very scared of it. Like I shouldn't feel that. It's angry. It's going to hurt people, and helping it come out and be present in my life. I'm kind of talking a lot about parts work here, and we're probably focusing less on your specialization, but it's it's fascinating to me. And it's been very,
It
very
is.
powerful for me.
Part of the reason I wrote Outgrow Porn was to apply parts work to our sexuality.
Great.
Because there are a lot of books out there on internal family systems and parts work. But not many of them actually go in depth into sexual parts.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me that wants to masturbate every day, or a part of me that is attracted to somebody that I would never want to actually engage sexually, but this fantasy is there. Or part of me that's really intrigued by a certain type of porn. We just don't talk about how it all works in that context enough, because it's so vulnerable, because there's such a stigma. And yet I think that's where parts work is needed most.
And do you think, Drew, that there are certain parts of us that are really engaged and involved in our sexuality and other parts that aren't? Do you think we have to engage all parts of us in that experience? Not have to, that we want to, for it to be a whole experience? Do you have any views or kind of opinions on that?
I mean, we all have so many parts, we'll probably never get to know them all.
Sure.
Usually, sexual fantasies are not about sex. These firefighters that are trying to help us by escaping from pain, like, they actually were not usually originally sexual, but that's the solution that they found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we can explore and access the non-sexual core of what we're drawn to, then we just don't need porn, or we don't need those old behaviors anymore.
So let's talk about the difference between arousal versus desire. You talk about this in your book, and I think it's really important. Because some people might say, well, I just, I feel sexual desire. And, then when I want porn or I want masturbation, like I have needs,
Yeah.
So kind of talk about that difference between arousal versus desire. And then maybe we can address what you've come to understand about the mind when it comes to sexuality. I have a lot I want to talk about on that topic, but on that subject. But let's talk about arousal versus desire. What's the difference?
Yeah.
There?
I learned this from my dear friend, Dr. Doug Carpenter, who specializes in working with male survivors of sexual abuse. And sexual abuse can be so confusing because guys will say, well, actually, I wanted it. I liked it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that can be extremely confusing
right?
and
Same with
very
porn.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's hurting me. I don't want it, but I like it. I want it at some level. How do you make sense of that?
Mhm.
Here is the most clarifying, liberating concept for outgrowing porn. I'm trying to figure out, well, I want it, but I don't want it. Okay. It's arousing. I feel arousal, even though it's not what I desire.
Yes.
So we need to separate those two. Arousal is an automatic reaction that takes place in your body. Desire is the emotional connection you truly long for. So while for me, the arousal would be for a woman who just got braces on her teeth. What's underneath that for me? What's the desire? It's for acceptance, connection. Very similar to what you described for a different thing that has been arousing for you. But the
Mhm.
core of it, at the soul level, not just at the surface level, um, it was more about like a heart connection rather than just a physical reaction.
Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, and you describe this in detail in your book, but, when you went to middle school and there
Yeah.
were people that had braces and you kind of picked your mind unconsciously picked this up at that
Mhm.
point without you even really realizing it till much later in your life.
Yeah. When I was 13, my family moved from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to the United States, specifically Texas, like the exact opposite culture. And
Mm.
and in Toronto, I was attending a small all boys private school, really starting to feel at home for the first time because my family moved so much. And
Yeah.
we were just getting to know the girls from the all girls school. And I remember going out to lunch with these three girls. And it was the first time I'd ever like interacted in that way,
Mhm.
as puberty is happening. Um,
Terrifying.
Terrifying and also electric.
Yes,
Just
right? Mhm.
I just felt so
Yep.
special too. I
Yeah.
remember eating
Yeah.
lunch with them. They all had braces on their teeth, and then a month later, I moved to another country. Never saw them again. And
Yeah.
so,
And
of
I
course, I
and I
moved to a
and I s
place.
I sigh like that because it's as a kid, I mean, that's you might look a lot of people look back on those experiences like, not a big deal. As a kid, it's devastating,
I lost
right?
my whole world. I actually
Yeah.
lost who I was
Mm.
because in Toronto, I was outgoing. I was very confident in myself. Felt like I belonged. I was getting interest and engagement from girls. Moved to Texas. I felt like an alien. I spent every day just waiting to go home to play video games and
Mm.
look at the pictures of those girls from Canada. And I sexually imprinted onto those images.
Wow.
My
Yeah.
first orgasms all focused on these girls with braces, either from Canada or the girls in Texas who felt completely inaccessible.
Mhm.
And where I felt like such a loser. I felt like such a weirdo. and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um
And this is something I think a vast majority of should I say vast majority? A lot of men that I've worked with, that's the way they felt, as kids. That's how I felt
yeah.
as a kid and as a teenager.
So middle school is already traumatic enough, and then you throw in this international move and all these changes. My sexual development got stunted when I was 13,
Okay. Yeah.
and it did not resume for years and years. I never dated, just stayed online, masturbating to images on social media. That's how my arousal template formed. And so
Mhm.
there was all this fear, shame, and loss. There was the loss of life in Canada. and these girls I was just getting to know, there was the shame about not being able to connect with anyone in Texas. And
Yep.
I remember kids saying, Drew, you're gay. I bet no girls like you. Why don't you go kill yourself? Like, these are the things that I still remember from 7th and 8th grade. And then the
So
fear.
sorry, man.
Thank you. And just the fear of being so terrified to ever talk to girls.
Yep.
All of that came together. And of course I fantasized about women with braces on their teeth. How could I not? given the way that all of that affected me. And yes, there are so many more stories that go back to earlier in life. Even in therapy session, I discovered something when I was 2 years old that was already connected to teeth. And when my sister used to bite me, and I was so afraid of her mouth, and then my grandmother planting kisses on my cheek that left a mark, and just the way that my face was violated and her lips were unsafe. Like, all of that played a role in me being so obsessed with people's mouths and teeth. There are so many pieces of this. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll ever completely solve the puzzle. But man, when you can see more of that picture, it makes so much sense. And that's when my self-hatred started to melt into self-compassion.
And this is why, earlier in this episode, I was saying that we don't go far enough with painful emotion. And I teach my clients embodiment practices, right? And I'm sure you teach the same, of opening up space in the body for the painful emotion. Because if I try to do it all up here, which is like when my clients first start with me, that's where all their emotion is up here in your head, right? And it's just like, I'm just like a head on a body, and I don't feel anything down here. It's just all up there. We become very disconnected from our body, and porn plays a big role in that. So go ahead.
Robert Masters, who came up with the concept of outgrowing porn in his book, To Be a Man, he said that we spend a lot of time in our heads, and then when we get too exhausted by that, then we go straight to our penises.
Oh, totally. That makes perfect sense.
And we skip our hearts.
Yes.
We skip our lungs. We skip our gut, our second brain. There are all these other aspects of being an integrated man that we're so out of touch with.
Yep. Yes.
So embodiment is huge.
Yeah. I love that. It's so good, because eventually you have to come into your body in some manner. And if you're suppressing it all the time, or you're not there with your body, you're not actually an integrated person, then it will come out in a destructive way. I'd say that's almost guaranteed, right? And so if we can follow that down and actually open up a space, like I was just doing this morning with some different regrets and things that I was feeling, and to be open, it's like for all men, we kind of struggle with when we're married. I think virtually every guy, unless they grew up in a really healthy home with like an awesome mom and dad, and they automatically learned how to be this amazing parent, there's often this push-pull between work and family, and uncertainty of how do I exactly show up as a husband and father, and then feeling pulled between the different responsibilities, and then my needs. And I was realizing the past couple of days, I got so involved in work that I was not really paying as close attention, or really showing up for my wife the way that I should be. And I had this part of me, again, that challenger part, I feel like showing up like, what are you doing, man? Come on, get it together. You got to be here for your family. And in the past, what I did is I'd like push that off and be like, just be compassionate for yourself, and just, it's okay that, you can't be too hard on yourself. And kind of it would be like the firefighter type of reaction to the manager. And there's points to both of those. There's one part of me trying to polarize and be like, be easier on yourself. It has a point. There's another part of me be like, you got to be here as a man for your family. Like, show up, man. It's got a point. And so me just stepping back and actually opening up space in my body to feel the pain, it was really painful and very uncomfortable, but inviting in and welcoming in that presence, being like, okay, what is it here to share with me? And I came out of that with some massive self growth and some answers and truth of like, okay, this part has a point. Like, I haven't been as present as I want to be, like the man I really want to be and how I want to show up the past couple of days. This is calling my awareness back to this center point of my family comes first, work comes second, right? The work is there to support my family. And that's something I've continuously had to work on. And so I think we don't take the time to sit down and just be fully present with whether it's that anger or that self-criticism or shame or fear, and follow it down to find love. Like, I found love for all these parts of me. Like, oh, look at all these good parts of me. And the same thing with cravings and sexual fantasy. Like, we don't take the time to actually dive down in and be like, what's in this?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me give everybody a really practical way to respond when you're feeling those cravings, urges, attractions that could lead you into relapse.
Yeah.
You can pause and say, hello, childhood. There you are. Or as I say with myself, hello, little Drew.
Hello, little Drew. I like that. I like that.
I mean, so simple, non-threatening. Showing up, being present, breathing, being aware, and being curious and compassionate about what's really going on here. Can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
I remember once I was on a phone call with my aunt after we hadn't spoken in a long time, and she said, Drew, I'm so hungry for you. Like, I need you.
Yeah. You said, I'm sorry, I missed it. You said this was your wife? Or
This is my aunt.
Your aunt. Your aunt said this.
Yeah, it's okay.
So hungry for you.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
I don't know how close you are with your aunt, or if you took this well.
Not wanting this kind of closeness.
Right. Yeah.
I had so much disgust coming up within me.
Yeah.
And after that phone call, I felt the need to masturbate. I was like, okay. Hello, little Drew. What's going on for you? What's coming up right now? And in my imagination, he said, my body was not my own. It was the property of older women in my family, aunt, grandmother, who would grab my hand even when I tried to let go. They would ensnare me in hugs that I didn't like. As I said, planting a kiss on my cheek, leaving a big red mark. And this part of me that wants to masturbate is saying, I want my body to be mine. I want to choose what I do with it. I don't want to feel consumed emotionally or physically by an older woman. And once that came to the surface, wow, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, that desire for autonomy and for safety is good. And then that empowers me as an adult to say, little Drew, you are absolutely right. Your body was not your own. And now, if you give in to this urge, you're actually allowing your aunt to continue to control you all these years later.
I love that you say sorry, go ahead.
I mean, what he wanted was freedom. And now that I've discovered what was underneath the urge, I can give him even more freedom.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you said I love that stuck out to me is your desire for security and autonomy, I think you said, is good. This is so crucial. This is the answer I come back to again and again and again in emotional mindfulness and with parts work, digging down. If you dig down far enough, you're going to find the good intention.
Right.
You're going to find the good desire. It's always there. And I think that that is really in so many ways the core of love, as best I've come to understand it. It's to find the truth. And the truth is underneath everything that you feel and everything you experience, all your actions, all your thoughts, etc., there's a desire to do the right thing. There's a desire for something good.
Yeah, we might say it like this. Beneath every behavior is a feeling. Beneath every feeling is a need.
Mm-hmm.
When we deal with the needs, we address the cause, not the symptom.
I like that.
That's from Ashley Warner. She's talking about parenting in that quote. It also applies to reparenting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And this, one of the things I thought about too, Drew, is in some ways how inevitable this is for us to carry shame or trauma to whatever degree into our lives, where I almost feel like when you look at it from a spiritual perspective, I believe that it's set up that way. We're going to experience hurt. We're going to experience fear, shame, grief. We're going to experience all these things because it actually, if we utilize that for good, it's going to deepen understanding. It's going to deepen compassion. It's going to bring us to a place of love. But those same emotions all stand to, they can make us bitter and make us tortured and make us, filled with feelings of self-doubt and run our lives. But when we're able to fully face those things, and we need to know how to do that, but to fully face them and dive into them and understand them at the deepest level, then we come out as a deeper, more loving, better person.
And that's the gift of this work. It has ripple effects that are so much bigger than just behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
We're becoming mature.
Yeah. 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 Outgrow porn, as you say, right? Outgrow it. Yeah. So in your book, Drew, you say porn loses much of its power when we find real safety with real people in real life. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
For many men that I've worked with, that real human connection can feel scary, can feel unknown. They can feel blocked from even being able to have it in the first place. What does that look like? What does it feel like? Or they don't even know that they're not connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can feel stale, actually, in comparison to the extremely arousing, intense experience of porn.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
If you want to experience the kind of connection that I'm talking about, you need to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable means more than just being transparent. Think about it this way. Yeah, if you go to the zoo and you see an exhibit with a scary animal, what would be your scary animal in a zoo?
I mean, I guess a lion.
A lion, right? So you're at the lion exhibit, you're looking at the lion through a thick pane of glass. You're visible, but you're not vulnerable. The glass is transparent, but it's still protecting you. And I think for a lot of us, we're used to being part of these recovery groups or friendships where we're being transparent with each other. Maybe we're confessing every time that we sexually act out. But that doesn't mean it's vulnerable. That is still often a protected way to live. Like, oh yeah, I masturbated. Okay, that doesn't actually tell me very much. To be vulnerable is when you remove the glass. Now you're in the exhibit with the lion. Okay, you can just feel the difference in your body.
I like that.
What that would be like.
It's good imagery.
So the Latin word vulnus means wound. So to be vulnerable is to be woundable.
Oh, wow.
This means I'm giving this person the opportunity to hurt me or heal me. If we're not woundable, we're not healable. You know?
It's a big deal, Drew. Yeah.
It's a huge deal. And that's part of why it's so powerful to open up about the particular types of porn we prefer, or specific sexual fantasies, or, the stories of childhood trauma, like the one you told at the beginning of this episode. Like, that gets us into the arena. And especially if it's with people who really know you, who love you, who can hold a safe space for whatever's going on within you. Man, now there's an opportunity for the real version of what we've been seeking symbolically through porn.
And I imagine a number of people think, okay, well, so once I reach all this self-understanding and stuff, then what? Because I got to fix something, right?
Yeah.
Like I got to take action or something, right?
Revealing is not the same as healing. You can understand all your issues inside and out and still feel the same in your body. This is not a solo sport. We need community, and we need it to be experiential. We need it to engage our whole brain, our whole body. Not that that's some kind of guarantee, but it's just so much more powerful than what many of us have been doing.
And you actually have a fantastic opportunity. By the time this launches, it'll be a little late. I don't know if there will be any spots available, but you do have the retreat at the beginning of September. If there are spots available by the time people are listening to this, do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys do there?
Yeah, we are doing one in September. We're doing one in April. We also do these smaller healing weekends. And this is an opportunity to have the one thing we can't do on Zoom, which is embodiment.
Totally.
Like a real long hug, watching the sunrise together, releasing trauma with healing tears, and experiencing the presence of Jesus in such a tangible, visceral way. That's what these experiences are about. My rule is that anything we do at these retreats has to be impossible online. It's not coming to see a bunch of speakers. It's like, no, let's do some work. And there are some great men's experiential weekends out there. And I found that they can be milestones. Like, you can have an experience there that changes a lot. And also, we need habits to make the healing stick. So it's not just like, come and then everything's different. It's like, no, we're tasting what life can be like. And then we go home and then we take it with us.
Yeah. It's awesome, Drew. It's awesome. Well, maybe you could, I kind of want to wrap up with the question. We'll see where this goes. But what has been one of the most profound things for you in your own recovery journey and helping you outgrow porn?
We've talked about a few of them.
We sure have.
Meeting little Drew has changed everything. Seeing the stories behind my sexual fantasies has been huge. Telling other people my darkest secrets I've never told anyone, and then receiving nothing but love and acceptance and embrace has been huge. Going to some of these weekends and screaming and sobbing and allowing all of this energy to have a place to go other than my penis.
Totally.
Has been huge. Ongoing support, so that I don't become complacent. I think it's very common for guys to get to a point where they feel like, hey, I'm doing great. Now I can just coast or drift. Man, that's a recipe for relapse. And I've been there even after a year of freedom from porn. Um, Went right back to it in 2014
Yep.
and felt like I was all the way back at the beginning. Like, we need to maintain our momentum, not just gain momentum, but maintain it. And growth is a lot harder than maintenance. To first get traction toward lasting freedom is extremely difficult. Maintaining freedom is a lot easier, but we neglect it. We think, oh, I'm good now, so we do nothing. It's like,
Yep.
no, like keep going. There's always more. And that feels perhaps discouraging for some people, like, oh, you mean I'll never get over this? Like, no, it's like there's more healing available. There's freedom that you didn't even know you could have yet. And I love how you referenced that, Jake, how you've had over 10 years of sobriety, done a lot of work, and this new piece of like starting to face your fantasies took you even deeper. Um, so what a gift that we get to keep going. And that's why at the very beginning of this, I acknowledged this strong temptation to self-sabotage as I'm coming out with this book. It's like, man, I'm not immune or exempt from sexual temptation and from all these things in my life. I'm also not who I used to be. I'm not where I was. And like this is the adventure of a lifetime.
It is. And I think you actually, when I first started this journey, it was kind of that mentality of like, okay, so when can I finally finish up with all this like growth stuff and like getting to know myself stuff? I'll get over all my traumas stuff and get back to my normal life. Like once that's done, then I can quit the porn thing and then everything will be fixed. And what you come to learn, what it took me 5 years of relapses to finally learn and just trying so hard is like, this is the rest of my life. Which can sound, like you say, very discouraging, but that's not actually how it is.
Dealing with a surface level sexual issue like porn is a trailhead. It's an invitation, an opportunity. When you start going on that trail, eventually you'll see like maybe there's a lot more out there than I thought. And that's not a threat. Like that's a fantastic story that God is writing in your life.
Mm-hmm. It's really exciting. I think I've come to love this work. It excites me. The deepening of self-understanding and growing in my recovery. Recovery just becomes a way of life.
Yeah.
And
after you finally understand the goodness and beauty of your deeper desires, it's not like sexual recovery is swimming upstream against a strong current. It's like whitewater rafting. Like, yeah, it's hard, but it's a different kind of challenge where you're flowing with your sexuality and your body and how God made you. And like it's so discouraging when you just feel like you're constantly swimming upstream, like, oh, my desires, I'm just constantly fighting against them. Rather than being with them and then going where we were designed to go, which is into acceptance, affirmation, adventure, love, safety, relationship, glory, honor, coming home, like healthy touch, redemption, like all these good things. And then our sexual symptoms were just the ticket into that amazing theme park where we're like actually starting to take risks and experience those things for real.
Yeah. Very well said, Drew. I couldn't have said it
Getting me
better
fired
myself,
up.
man.
I'm like, let's do this.
Well, good, because you still have another month till your book launches. So I think all that fire will serve you well.
Yeah, I'm going to need it.
That's right, man. Well,
Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, man. And again, just want to reiterate for everybody listening, Outgrow Porn. It's an extremely powerful work. Drew has poured his soul, his heart, his mind, his blood, sweat, and tears into this book. And it truly is a powerful work that I believe if you're struggling with pornography addiction, seek it out, buy it, listen to it. I assume there will be an audio version. Is that right?
2026.
2026. Okay. I shouldn't have spoken too soon. 2026, there will be an audio version, but buy the book. It's a powerful one. So thanks for what you're doing, Drew. It's a really big deal. And if people want to find this book or learn more about you or your retreats, the Husband Material Academy, where can they go?
Go to outgrowporn.com to buy the book directly from me at the highest quality and the lowest price. And you can go to husbandmaterial.com for all of our free resources and courses and the events that we're doing. We do a free conference every 6 months as well. And yeah, I don't believe that anyone should be prevented from getting high quality help with this. So, Jake, thank you for what you're doing and the way that you're playing a huge role in this amazing story and inviting me to speak.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate that, man. It's great to have you on.
Thanks.